Without any further ado, I know from that introduction that everyone out there is thinking, so what do you tell the Prime Minister? So give us a little bit of an insight into what a digital advisor is saying today to the Prime Minister. I'm sure everyone here wants to hear it.
Well, I can't really tell you what I know. But what's really interesting is how digital, it has started in the 80s, late 80s, from a hardware perspective of making analog to machine digital. And that was my first experience with Xerox, by the way. I was working with Xerox as an embedded systems partner. But it started out where it was about machines and wiring the world, and suddenly became so pervasive that it cuts across everything that we do. In fact, in 2010, when this government started, you have to imagine at the height of the recession, government was contracting, austerity measures were taking hold, and it was all about how do we reinvent government to do more with less, as Ursula was saying. How do we reinvent government? How do we make it more responsive to people? And how do we somehow catalyze these pockets of innovation that were springing up? The digital economy was starting in certain parts of London. How do we use entrepreneurship and innovation as a catalyst for change? And how do we start turning our economy around? And that was the birth of Tech City in East London. Now, I was running Facebook at the time, and we were amazed at how many developers were congregating in that part of London, but also all across the UK and around the world. At the height of the recession, a lot of young people couldn't find jobs. So they started getting innovative and finding their way around this. So this government was very smart and decided to say, okay, there's this great thing happening. How do we marshal that, and how do we support that and make sure that that catalyst turns into a movement across the country? Now, I'm happy to report 4.5 years on, we are the fastest growing country in the G7, and we are the most digital economy in the world, with 12.5% of our GDP coming from the digital and technology sector. So it's really been an incredible transformation of government. But alongside of that, we also transformed how we interact with people on a daily basis. So embracing things like open systems, open data, we launched the Open Data Institute here, cloud computing, opening up government procurement with something we call the G Cloud or the government cloud. We've completely transformed how government works. And we've led the world in this, so much so that we've become one of the most digital nations operationally as well, and started an organization called the D5, or the most digitally enabled governments in the world. And we really think we've set the standard, but it's all about embracing change, and it's all about moving with the trends that were happening and making sure that we're prepared to take advantage of this technology revolution and make sure that we're ahead, and it's really paying off.
So this is enormous change.
Absolutely.
So we sort of, as you said, we started at the worst time possible economically. There was massive change going on. Everyone out there sitting there saying, I'm doing change as well. What's the one thing you learned, or a couple of things you learned from that process of trying to create this time? What is it you'd say, this really made it happen, this moved forward?
I think the recognition that we didn't have all the answers, and that we needed to open up our doors of government to people and start listening. Because the answers in this sort of transformation of the economy has been really about innovation and pockets of people doing really creative and interesting things. So it was opening up that door and saying, what is it that you need? What is standing in your way, and what can we solve for you? And changing the role of government, not creating policies that people have to abide by, but creating policies that enhance their work. Like, what do you need in terms of immigration to hire the people that will help grow your business? What kind of tax incentives do you need? We created R&D tax packages. We created something called the patent box, which enables you to invent technology here and only ever pay 10% tax forever on the intellectual property that's created here in the UK. So we really changed things, and we just listened. We opened up the door to government. In fact, once a month we have a technology breakfast, and people come in and they tell us what's ever on their mind, and sometimes it's quite lively. They really tell us off occasionally, like, here's what needs to be fixed, or you haven't fixed this yet, and we really listen. And the Prime Minister has taken this very seriously, and it's really made all the difference. So 24% of all the new jobs came from the tech and digital sector. So without that, we wouldn't be in such a strong position as an economy.
Yeah, so it's not about hunkering down and just working hard. It's
Opening up, actually,
inviting other
embracing
voices in.
change and saying, why not? Absolutely.
So as we talked about Tech City, it's a great example of government helping digital entrepreneurship.
Definitely.
But I also think there are some pretty good examples of where this has had a benefit to society, sort of blow back to society beyond the economic benefits we're talking about. I know you've got an example you may want to share with us.
I do. I wanted to share a video with you. Last year at this time, if you remember, in the UK we had these dreadful floods that went on for about 6 weeks where it rained almost every day. Fortunately this year we're through January, fingers crossed we won't have the same situation, but the way we started solving a lot of these challenges was we said, we got to figure out how do we get people the emergency relief they need, how do we help them move their livestock to higher ground, how do we help them get transportation, around these areas that were flooded. And so we went to Tech City and we partnered with Google and Google Campus, and we sent out a message on a Friday night and we said we're calling all developers to come to either the physical location in Tech City or to join us online. And we were going to have a hackathon to try to solve these very serious challenges that were around, getting people to safety and helping them deal and cope with these floods. And from Friday night to Sunday morning, we had 250 engineers show up. And I wanted to share with you the video of how they all came together. And I think it's a great sort of example of how people unite to sort of find a way through using technology to change things during difficult times.
Right, and change them quickly.
Change them very, very quickly.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
So if we could roll the video, that would be great.
So the last 2 months we've had some of the worst flooding in recorded history here in the UK. What today is about is bringing together over 200 developers to help find a solution to this problem. So many people and parties and companies have come together to make it possible.
Everyone here has come together to try and build applications that can benefit flood victims or to help emergency services get access to people who need it.
What we've been trying to do is understand what data sources that the government have that might be useful in creating ways in which people could access information.
So that's everything from food to petrol to finding shelter.
It kind of unleashes the creativity of hundreds of people with the potential to help many, many thousands in a very short time period.
In less than a day, there'll be applications here which can actually go out and benefit these people straight away.
And what's really remarkable about this particular event is that this was organised 2 days ago.
We had an emergency meeting and we brought in tech companies from around the country and we asked them, what can you do to help victims of the flood? And what came out of that meeting at number 10 was that we decided to have a hackathon here in Tech City.
I've never seen a response like the Flood Hack event.
Within 24 hours, we got over 200 signups. We felt like that there was a real purpose here.
Open up the data to everyone, allow all these other developers to build apps based on that data is a good thing.
The more data that the government can release, the more innovation will occur.
It's the creativity and the innovation that comes out of events like this that really enables us to break the boundaries of what we can do with the data and how useful it is for people.
By opening up the data, giving it to developers and saying, be creative, you can really surface some amazing things that you've never thought of otherwise.
That leads on to other ways of working in the future.
Yeah, I think it's just been extraordinary. It's fantastic to see the outpouring of support, the creativity, the energy that's been in this room. All this stuff will hopefully come to fruition and assist people who really are in need of assistance.
The community was really in action. It's initiatives like this, it's events like this that strengthen the community so much more.
All of what you're seeing around here is pure innovation. And innovation is what drives this country and it's what drives economic growth.
I see this becoming a more regular thing, that people in the tech community come together for social good.
The next time that we get hit with a national disaster like this one, we'll be much better prepared. And the solutions will be out there and will be common enough for people to know how to ask for help, get help, avoid damaged areas, etc.
me in watching that was the government stimulated and participated. They also created a monster that demanded, and then they enabled that through providing data and supporting it. So what are some of the things that came out of that?
Well, I think the lesson learned was, how we were thinking in the traditional way. We were sitting around a table at Downing Street saying, how do we fix this problem, that problem? How do we get access to these data sources? And then we thought, this is crazy. There's so many talented and clever people out there. Let's just open it up to the community and see what they come up with.
Right.
So the lesson was, again, opening up, asking for the support of the technology community and letting that innovation drive the solutions.
Great, thank you.
My pleasure.
You've worked for some of the fastest moving, fastest growing, largest technology businesses in the world who are doing change. And we see companies like Uber, Airbnb coming in and transforming transportation and the hospitality industry. How do we get to grips with that? How do companies get to grips with that transformative, disruptive change?
That's a really good question. I think, the first reaction of incumbents or entrenched businesses is to say, oh, this is wrong, we have to stop it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that sometimes technology moves too quickly and, people's lives can be disrupted. It's true. But in a way, companies like Airbnb and the sharing economy, it is the wave of the future because we want to be able to use resources more efficiently. We want to be able to utilize an empty apartment. We want to be able to utilize a zip car when it's needed. Why should we have to buy our own car every time we need to go? So at some stage you can see the writings on the wall that we have to get there. But it's hard when you have a business that relies on that. So when you think about the transportation industry and you think about companies like Halo and Get Taxi and how innovative they are about using technology to leverage the network of taxi cabs in this country, and they're doing quite well. And of course there's a role for Uber, but if somebody's not getting a ride, they still need a ride. So that means there's some excess capacity, or there's excess capacity of cars, so we might as well use them. So it's about leaning into the actual phenomenon and where things are moving, and just embracing it and figuring how you transform your business to be a major player in the future, knowing that that's coming.
Right. So the theme of opening up again and turning into real action today comes in.
Because in the end, the economics always wins. If there's excess capacity, if there are cars to be driven, someone's going to drive them, right? So it just makes sense. And technology enables us to find that capacity. So it makes sense.
Right. And thank you. Thanks very much.
Pleasure.